not a groomer. I'm just a loser.
Well, there is a very big elephant in the room.
Yeah.
And I think that we just have to address it.
Sure. Immediately.
Why Miranda?
They say when you don't succeed, try again. What they don't tell you, and I don't know who they is yet, but I'm trying to get to the bottom of it, is that does not apply to making the world's worst fucking apology video ever made. Apparently nobody gave Colleen Ballinger that message, and we're paying the price for it. The toxic gossip train has returned to the station, ladies and gentlemen, and this time rides are free, and you have to board it unless you're fucking stupid. Sorry, I don't make the rules. Colleen Ballinger is a name that, I was real good just never hearing again, but for some reason she just won't stop coming back to the internet. There is something wrong with this woman. Now, if you don't know who Colleen Ballinger is, yes you do, it's Miranda Sings. If you don't know who Miranda Sings is, she is the internet persona of Colleen Ballinger, which is essentially just like a really shitty culmination of 2010's internet humor. And a couple of years ago, Colleen got into a lot of trouble once people started to really pay attention to how she behaves when she's in this character and is interacting with her audience, which is primarily like 10-year-olds, and more so than anything, the interactions between her and her audience at her live in-person shows. I'll link a couple videos in the top right corner if you want like the full breakdown, because this is like years worth of shit at this point, but if you've really never heard like anything about this, basically what you need to know is at the time Miranda Sings was such a big thing that she was one of the few YouTubers who could successfully do like live in-person shows with real audiences, and at these shows jam-packed full of like 8 to 11-year-olds. She would bring kids onto stage and do really weird shit, like make them eat food out of her clothes. If I remember correctly, she had a girl like go onto stage, lay down, and spread her legs. And just a lot of really weird shit that you probably shouldn't really be doing at all, but obviously no place for that kind of shit around children. And a couple of years ago, these clips started to resurface and go viral, which made a lot of people start to look through her behavior over the years a little bit more closely, and just a whole mountain of shit was discovered. Weird ass behavior in group chats with underage fans, asking shit like what's your favorite sex position, are you a virgin, sending children lingerie in the mail, and it just seemed like the more people looked, the more they found. And this was not some sort of case where people were doing like a witch hunt, just trying to find shit to make her look bad. If you want to sit here and try to explain to me how sending a child lingerie in the mail as a grown woman is somehow acceptable, I'll pin your comment, we can see how people react to that. But like I said, things were kind of snowballing. People were finding new weird shit that she had done each and every day. So eventually, obviously, Colleen had to respond. And the way that she decided to do that has since gone down in internet history. She whipped out a fucking ukulele, sat down in front of a camera, and played like a 10 or 15 minute long song about how she is actually the victim in this situation. About how everybody's just being mean to her, how this is one big witch hunt, this is just people wanting gossip, how it was all bullshit, people were blowing things out of proportion, even though, there was like video evidence of half the shit, and that this is just people wanting gossip. She's the real victim in this situation. No, I'm not joking. That was the response of a grown woman when being called out for essentially like grooming her audience. You just don't get the joke. Sending lingerie to children is cool. So obviously a lot of no bueno shit, but for the diligent listener, you might have noticed that all of this happened a couple of years ago. So why are we talking about this today? Well, that's because, like I said earlier, for some reason, Colleen just can't stay off the fucking internet, and more importantly, she can't stop talking about all this happening. She is clearly desperate to get people on her side, and I think that's why she recently went onto the Tea Time podcast hosted by Raven fucking Symone, yes, the one you're thinking of, and her wife Miranda, where these three spend about an hour downplaying this woman grooming her audience and demonstrating grossly inappropriate behavior around children that look up to her for years. Don't know what Colleen did for these two losers to agree to this, but these three spend an entire hour pretending that all the shit that Colleen was called out for is just funny haha behavior, and that it's totally cool and just a laughing matter to ask a child if they still have their virginity. We're not going to watch the entire thing because we'd be here for quite some time, but I'm going to show you the highlights. It's going to be a longer one today. It's also probably going to piss you off if you're a halfway decent person, so just be prepared for that, okay? Let's begin. Please subscribe.
Okay,
Anyway, we really appreciate you being
we're
here
really happy
today.
that you're here.
I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Well, there is a very big elephant in the room.
Yeah.
And I think that we just have to address it.
Sure.
Immediately.
Why Miranda?
I know. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I was thinking about that. I was like, how do we address this when I get there?
It's pretty massive.
Oh, great heavens, what a banger. Get it? Because, like, the elephant in the room is actually how she was unbelievably inappropriate with children, but it's a joke because they have the same name. Oh my God, good one, Miranda. Now ask her why she asked a kid if she's a virgin or not.
The difference between me and a mainstream celebrity, at least in the beginning, was that I was attainable and look, she'll talk to us. She'll interact with us and she's talking to us from her living room. She'll talk about anything. We know her, you know, and I didn't think about that when I was interacting with my fans, I didn't think about a power dynamic that could have been there. I didn't think about a parasocial relationship, and I should have. I should have been more responsible in thinking about that, but I didn't even think of myself that way. I was like, yeah, we are friends. Like, I think I felt the same way. And so for me, I was like, well, I'm just talking to my friends. I talk to all of them like they're my friends, my sisters, all the fans. And I definitely should have been more careful with the way I was joking with them and the things I was saying to them.
Do you feel like not having a team earlier in your career hindered you from making better decisions?
I definitely wish I had someone to give me advice. I was with that group of like the first YouTubers that kind of like rose to any sort of stardom or fame, in the beginning. So it's not like there were people before me doing this that I could look to and ask questions about. This was a new thing.
Okay, so like 20 minutes in, this is the first real question that they ask her, and good to see that Colleen is still spewing the same bullshit she has been this entire time. So right off the bat, saying that you just felt like you were talking to your friends as a 30-year-old plus woman at the time, in reference to people saying that you were being inappropriate with like young teenagers, is absurd. A grown adult even kind of feeling like they can relate to a child as a friend, especially in the way that they can make inappropriate jokes about sex and shit, is absurd. And what makes this even worse is it feels like she's saying this as like the explanation for why she did that, which makes me think that she doesn't quite understand that people like knew that. Like, that's the whole controversy, that she felt like their friend and she felt comfortable saying the shit she did. That's the issue. And then to blame it on being like one of the first YouTubers to really get famous, sure, I guess I could buy that if you were facing backlash, I don't know, in like 2011. That still wouldn't excuse the shit you did, but I mean, if you were trying to blame your behavior on just not knowing any better because nobody did this before you, that just doesn't really work for your situation, because the things people were calling you out for happened 10 plus years into you being an influencer, long after the dangers of parasocial relationships were made known, and long after what the appropriate sort of interactions between an influencer and a fan are have been established.
I posted the video. It was shortly after I posted it, I was talking to someone on the phone from my team, and I was like, oh, that was a huge mistake. That was really stupid. It was like there was so much, I have to say something, and finally I let it out.
What does regret feel like?
Oh, it's horrible. It's horrible. It's horrible. Because because you want to fix it. You can't fix it. I wanted to fix it so bad, and there was no fixing it. There was nothing I could do to fix it. That was so awful. That was so, because not only did I not address anything that I wanted to address, not only did I not, dispute the lies that I wanted to dispute, and I just made things worse. It was so bad.
So far we're 2 for 2 for excuses, and they're both dog shit. Okay, so like I said, we can't watch the entire thing here, but leading up to her saying this, she does say some things that I think are valid. Like, she says a lot about how she just felt a lot of pressure to respond, and it kind of resulted in her releasing the worst fucking video to ever grace the internet, and that she fucked up and she made a lot of mistakes. And like, fair, whatever. I'm not gonna sit here and try to beat up on her for doing those things, but what I don't understand is, Colleen, if you really feel this way, what the fuck are you doing? Why are you on a podcast that nobody really cares about saying all this shit? Make it actually right. If you actually want to set the record straight, if you actually want to go in front of everybody and say, hey, look, I fucked up. This is why I did that. These are all the explanations you're looking for. Let's go through them case by case, actually talk about all this shit, clear the air and clear the confusion, and get everybody back on the same page. Why are you not just doing that? See, that's my problem. When you say shit like this, it feels very disingenuous because you do that for a living. You talk to a camera for a living. You could very easily do that, and if your explanation beforehand was you just didn't want to open it back up, okay, whatever. But clearly that's not it because you're on a fucking podcast saying all the shit you should be saying on your actual platform.
There were moments in your live shows where there were children brought up on stage and you were, as showbiz says, going for the funny in a lot of moments. However, looking back at moments, there is another person on the internet who is saying that when she went up on stage for your live show, she was a part of the yoga challenge section of your show. And it made them feel gross. Later in life, they were essayed, and when they look back at that moment with you, they feel similar feelings. Can you dive a little bit deeper into what happened at the yoga challenge?
It was a challenge on YouTube for a while for people to try out different yoga poses. Like couples would do it together because if you're not experienced in yoga, it's difficult to do. And so since I'm a YouTuber on my live show, sometimes I would do challenges from YouTube. So I did that challenge and I'd have people come up on stage and we would try out different yoga poses that popped up on the screen. And obviously we could never do them and I would be, flailing about as Miranda. And there was one pose where there are two people and both legs are spread open, you're holding each other's legs. And I genuinely never thought of it as a sexual or inappropriate thing. To me, the joke was that when the legs were open to do the pose, the fart sound effect came on screen. So it was like once the legs opened up, there was a fart sound. And to me, that was all I thought that joke was.
Okie dokie. So it seems like Colleen might be allergic to just saying, look, I know what I did was super weird. I should have never done it. I don't know what I was thinking. There's no excuse. Because that's really what she needs to say for like 80% of this stuff. Because the explanations that she's providing are terrible. They are ridiculous. They're convoluted. They are things that no grown adult could actually convince themselves to believe. Really, having a girl spread her legs on stage is just a fart joke? Okay. Furthermore, not that any of this made any sense to begin with, but the whole idea that this was just an innocent joke that people took the wrong way falls apart even more when 2 minutes later, in reference to her behavior on stage, she says this.
And a lot of the comedy that I did with Miranda, when my audience shifted, I was like, okay, how do I keep this audience that liked this crass humor and now appealed to this younger audience that now is growing so much? And my solution to that was I will still do these more crass innuendo type jokes and it'll go over the kids' heads and then the parents will have something to laugh at and the adults will have something to laugh at that are in the audience. And that was my solution to that.
So, I mean, which one is it? Is having somebody spread their legs on stage really nothing more than just a fart joke? Or is it really a sexual innuendo that you incorporated the fart noise into for the younger audience? I mean, come on. Just admit what you did and this will go away a lot quicker.
There's been many a comedian, many a entertainer that has done things in their early career that when they look back on, they wish they didn't because culture changes. People were laughing with you and quote unquote at you because of the character. It must feel so like two-faced for you, for all these people who were laughing with you. And then all of a sudden,
have them turn against you.
I don't, yes, it's painful to see people who supported me and laughed with me and all this stuff suddenly turn and change their mind about it. But I don't blame anyone but me for, I completely blame myself, especially because I know that people do make mistakes and people can learn and grow and change. And one of my biggest mistakes was not listening and addressing things and taking responsibility.
And playing the ukulele.
Yeah, I'm playing that damn ukulele.
So I just don't want you to forget that.
I will never trust me.
Okay, so what I have to say here is actually more like a criticism of Raven. I'm glad that Colleen did not play into what she just said here because that's a crazy fucking thing to say. Yes, obviously a lot of people were probably laughing at these shows and going along with it and not finding anything wrong with it. Those people were also children. That's kind of the whole issue here, is that kids tend to not understand that these behaviors are inappropriate, and even more dangerously, they don't understand that it's inappropriate when it's directed towards them. So like, yeah, no shit, the kids who were getting to talk to their favorite YouTuber in person and in these weird group chats were enjoying it and did not find it weird at the time. And then when they grew up, they started to think, why the fuck was a 13-year-old me having these weird-ass conversations with a grown-ass woman who was in a position of power over me? Like, yeah, no shit. What are we talking about here?
Now, this is a live show. My apologies for never going and seeing the
It's all
entire
good.
thing.
No
but
worries.
if you could explain why there is a clip of YouTube of a little boy eating Cheetos out of your pants, could you explain that for the audience, please?
Pulling Cheetos. That makes it sound more egregious. Like he's physically eating out of her pants. He wasn't. He was taking one.
Oh, he was taking a... See? That's how things get twisted.
Right.
Yeah.
So could
Yeah.
you explain it, please?
Oh, wow. They left that in? Really? The creator of this podcast and the main person interviewing Colleen, proving that they did absolutely no fucking research whatsoever and they don't really know what kind of stuff they're talking about here? Why would you let that make it to the final cut? I guess that explains why half these questions are so bad.
A lot of the joke with Miranda was that I would say and do things that were inappropriate or had some sort of sexual innuendo to them or something like that. And it went over the character's head. Like Miranda was not aware that she was saying something that could be taken the wrong way. That was a lot of the jokes that I did as the character. And so in that particular part of the show that I did, it was probably 8 to 10 years ago that I used to do that bit. Miranda was teaching the audience how to sneak food into the movie theater. And so I stuffed a big bag of cheese balls in my pants. Now, I was wearing layers of clothing because throughout the show, I put more clothes on over my clothes on stage. When I transitioned from me into Miranda, I, in front of everyone, put on more clothes. So I'm wearing lots of layers of clothing, and then there's the cheese balls in a bag and in my pants. And so initially, I would bring up an adult, and I'd start eating the snack as we're, quote unquote, watching this movie. And then I'd say, do you want a snack? And then they would take a cheese ball from the top of the bag and eat it. It was supposed to be like she doesn't realize how inappropriate this looks. And then, there's a clip, like you said, of when a younger person came on stage and did that with me. And the audience is laughing and you could see my reaction, like, this is a weird situation that I'm in here. But it got a big laugh and everyone knew that it wasn't just, and this is me trying to, rationalize, that's the word, yes, rationalize the situation. But shortly after, I'd say within a year of doing that joke, I cut it because I was like, I think this
Within a year of doing that joke, you what?
cut it. I stopped doing it because it was, my fans were, a lot of them were younger at this point. So I was like, I'm not, obviously this joke is not, I'm not going to do this anymore. It's not working. It's not appropriate. And so I cut that. I regret doing that. I should have never brought kids up on stage, even though the joke was that Miranda doesn't know that this is inappropriate and the audience is like, it doesn't matter. I should have been like, if I'm going to do this joke, it's in my adult show that I'm doing with adults that are consenting and know that this is the joke, that Miranda doesn't understand that this could look bad.
So I'll give Colleen this. I feel like this is the first halfway decent explanation she's given for anything, but I think that's due to it sounding pretty honest, but the honesty sounds real bad. And I think there's just a real good argument here that it's time for Colleen to just kind of pack it up, do the whole Jenna Marbles route, because if your explanation for having a kid eating out of your pants is because you knew it looked bad and you knew it looked inappropriate, it's like, what were you thinking? What were you ever thinking? And I know she says that, but I don't know if that's really good enough. I don't know any adult who would be like, you know what, that's funny. Let me do something weird and inappropriate with a kid, and the joke is that I'm doing something weird and inappropriate with a kid. Why even have that idea to begin with? And a lot of people are going to hear me say that and be like, okay, well, she just can't win, can she? She apologized for it. She admitted it. What do you want her to do? And honestly, there's nothing she can do, because when you admit to doing shit like that, you've kind of just got to take it on the chin and realize your shit's over. And I think Colleen has done that to an extent, but maybe it's time to stop doing podcasts. Maybe it's time to pack up the YouTube shit, because you're never going to live this down, because it's something you can apologize for, but it's not something that most people are going to be like, you know what, that's cool.
So you have admitted to sending lingerie to an underage fan. And I know you've talked about this before, but I would like to ask you one more time to address this and kind of what happened and how you're feeling about it now.
Yeah, what an idiot. Is how I feel about it now. I think it was 10 years ago, something like that. I was doing a live stream, and I always loved giving away gifts to my fans online. So I would send them a bobby pin of Miranda's or a lipstick of Miranda, an old shirt, Usually it was to encourage them to donate to a charity event that I would do every year. So I was doing a live stream like I did pretty often, and I was opening up a box of clothes that I had bought, and in it was this underwear bra set that I didn't order, and it was we were all laughing about it. So everyone in the chat was laughing about it, me and my friend, and there are people in the comments saying, "Oh, send that to me, send that one to me," and we were like, "We're not going to do that. That's crazy." But then there's one fan in particular who kept asking us to send it, and I was like, obviously you can tell in the live, like I'm like hesitant about it because there is a little bit of brains in there somewhere that was like maybe not, because I hesitated, but then I was like, and I didn't send it. I didn't, but then it was just became an inside joke with the fandom, and everyone was like telling me to send it, and he kept asking for it. It was like months of this, and so finally I did, and it was very public and as a joke, and it was like a part of my brain was missing in action of like, hey, this is not a good idea. This looks bad. It wasn't a pair of my something that I sent to a young fan in a inappropriate way, but it was inappropriate. Like, why would what part of me thought like everyone will know this is a silly joke in the fandom? Like I wish I'd never done that. That was so inappropriate. And if he was made to feel uncomfortable because of that, like I feel terrible and I'm so sorry, because that was not my intention with that. I thought it was like a silly inside joke with the whole fandom. It was all very public, and I thought it was a silly thing, and it was so stupid.
Okay, so she keeps saying stuff like this, and while I guess I can appreciate that, like as the video progresses, she's seeming to try to like excuse things away less and less, I feel like it's still just not really satisfactory to me. You can't have a history of doing inappropriate things with and around children and then just explain it away by saying, oh, I guess that part of my brain was missing. Like, that's just not really enough, and I think that part of that just comes from the fact that when it comes to stuff like this, no explanation is really ever going to be enough. I don't really know if there is a satisfactory explanation when it comes to stuff like that, but it just seems really odd to me to continuously say, oh, I wasn't even thinking about it. That part of my brain just wasn't there. It's like, really? The part of your brain that not only prevents you from doing weird shit around children, but prevents you from wanting to do weird shit around children is just missing? Well, maybe you should go fucking find it.
Something else, Colleen, that has come up and been discussed is the fact that you would participate in group chats with your fans, and there were minors in those chats, and there would be questions regarding their virginity and sex positions.
Right.
Inappropriate questions are being asked to underage people. What was going on?
That's true. It's completely inappropriate. And I used to do this weekly question and answer thing with my audience. And that particular group chat was full of a bunch of different fans of all ages, but they were crass and funny and ridiculous. And they would, whenever I asked for questions for my channel, they would ask me questions like that. They would ask me questions they knew I wouldn't answer, that were over the top, inappropriate. So when one of them, which this part of the conversation is now deleted, those parts of the conversations are deleted or gone or somehow, I don't know. But when they asked for questions for theirs, I was trying to do the same jokes that they had just previously been doing with me. Stupid and inappropriate. Shouldn't have done it. I feel really embarrassed and stupid. And
Did you know they were underage at the time?
I knew that there were teenagers in the chat. Yeah, I did know that. And I also thought, well, they all know I'm not serious. I don't want the answers to these questions. They all know that I'm just joking around, like they do this to me, and they know I'm not going to answer the questions. I know they don't want the answers. You know, like I thought like this was, you know, it was clear between all of us that like I was joking. I didn't actually want this information from this person. Mm-hmm. I thought it was funny. I thought it was funny to ask a really absurd, crazy question. And there were a bunch of questions I asked. Those were just a few of the awful ones that I did. And I should have never done that. That was crazy of me.
Okay, so I want to make this clear. I don't personally believe that Colleen Ballinger is like a groomer or a predator. I do believe that she's participated in behavior that those kind of people portray, and she just confirmed that she's done that. And I think that's why these sorts of explanations are so dangerous, and we just shouldn't really be accepting them. If you've ever watched like body cam footage or police interviews of people getting caught doing shit like this, it seems like their first excuse, the first first thing out of their mouth is always, I was just joking. I was just messing around. They knew I wasn't being serious. And while I do think that Colleen probably was joking, she probably wasn't being serious, that doesn't excuse it in any sort of meaningful way. And you might say that she's acknowledging that, she's saying that she shouldn't have done it. Sure, but you can't deny that she is offering this explanation of, oh, it was all just a joke, everybody knew it wasn't serious, as a way to explain why she did it.
It wasn't in a grooming fashion.
Absolutely not. It was in a stupid fashion. It was like I shouldn't.
For the
like,
laugh?
For the laugh. I thought it would make them laugh. I thought they'd be like, oh my God, I can't believe you said that. Ha ha ha. Like how they did with me often. They were very funny, that group chat of all these different friends. They were very funny, very dedicated, wonderful people.
So you were being one of the kids.
Yeah, right.
And you had forgotten.
Yeah,
so
right.
You were acting more like one of your kid viewers versus remembering that you were actually the adult in the chat.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
And that lends itself to the power dynamic that you had referenced earlier,
Right.
where you kind of had
Right.
lost the awareness of
Right.
that relationship
Right.
or dynamic.
Okay, so I don't really understand what these three are getting out of this part of the conversation, because to me, it just looks really bad. It's sort of just solidifying what everybody's been saying. She says not in a grooming way, but what you guys are describing is grooming. Like the breaking down of that traditional adult-child relationship where you start to kind of warp the child's view of what you are to them dynamically. Like normalizing the discussion of inappropriate topics between you and a kid and gaining their trust and making them feel safe talking about that stuff is like textbook grooming. Like that is the process of grooming. An adult takes advantage of a child's trust, they get them comfortable talking about this sort of stuff, and they take advantage of that and they move it past the point of just talking about it. Like that's what grooming is. So I don't really understand what they're trying to say here.
I was so caught up in the things that weren't true, and well, they're missing the context of this, so and that was taken out of context there, and this was deleted from this, and I wanted to explain everything and prove that I wasn't this horrible person, this monster, but like in my response I kind of proved I was kind of like
Dismissive. You
Yeah,
were
I was dismissive. And so I've learned to take a beat and try to hear what people are actually saying. Because yes, there's going to be all the noise. And even when you're just having a little tiff with your partner, they're going to say they're mad about things they're not really. And it's important to try to like sift through the crazy and get to like, what's the root here? Why is this person hurt?
Yeah.
And how can I help them to feel better? And how can I explain this in the right way to help them feel safe and okay when they're not feeling good?
Well, that mindset definitely comes with maturity. That's something that we all have to learn. That's something that people aren't born with. That comes from trial and error. That comes from trauma. And that comes from a situation like what you have been through.
Okay, so in the nicest way imaginable, you guys are all pushing 40. And I say that because I feel like blaming the whole ukulele incident on something like just not being mature enough at the time to handle it is kind of wacky. Like you were 36 years old and you decided to whip out a ukulele and paint yourself as the victim when you got grooming allegations. I feel like doing that when you're nearly 40 years old is no longer like a question of maturity, that's just who you are.
I should have thought a lot more about my interactions with my fans and how it could affect them. I should have been more responsible and thought about how these things could affect people, especially, the teenagers that were interacting with me. And I'm so now, in hindsight, like grateful and proud of these people for coming forward and saying like, hey, this is not okay behavior. Because even though I know that I never wanted to hurt anyone and my intentions and my desires were nothing negative in my interactions with these people, that needed to be said. They needed to say like, hey, this isn't okay, because there are people out there who they do have the intentions to hurt them, and they need to be able to say like, this isn't okay and I'm not standing for this, and like my heart was in the right place. It doesn't matter if people felt uncomfortable. I'm proud of them for saying like, this wasn't okay and this made me uncomfortable, or this is not an okay thing to joke about, or whatever. That needed to happen. And I hope that anyone interacting with anyone online, whether it be a celebrity or a new friend or anyone, goes into it with that caution up of like, what are these person's intentions? And assuming they're negative going into it, I feel like is a good thing to protect them from
Real predators.
Real
Yeah.
predators
Real
who actually do
predators.
want to hurt them.
So I think that's the last thing I'm going to show, but I wanted to include that because I feel like this is the best, most like reasonable, oh, look at that person, they may have actually learned their lesson thing that Colleen has said this entire time. And not just like during this podcast, but like ever regarding this situation. Like I mentioned earlier, for me personally, kind of regardless of the apology you give, this is the kind of thing where I don't think I'm ever going to be like, Colleen Ballinger, you know what, she's good in my book. Because I feel like the things that she's saying here are things that you just don't really need to be told. They are things you shouldn't have to be told. As an adult, as a grown woman, you should not have had to be told by children, by teenagers, that doing shit like this is not okay. It seems very intuitive to me. I think it's very intuitive to most people. And while I think it's good that she seems to have kind of learned from all of this, and she is saying the right things now, even if she's just been PR trained, it's a little too little, a little too late. I feel like I probably covered most of the stuff you'd be interested in hearing about if you care about this situation at all. But if you want the full story, obviously go watch the full podcast. But like half of it is stupid shit like this.
I'd be curious to know your thoughts on what you think your spirit is here to learn.
So, I think I'm good to end it here. Well, guys, what are your thoughts? Like I said, I think it's time for Colleen to just call it quits. I think she'd be happier. I think the general population would be happier. That might sound kind of mean, but like, nobody's gaining anything from this. She's definitely not. She has the most to lose from this. Everybody else just gets to laugh. So it's like, what are you doing? You're never going to clear your name in a meaningful way when it comes to stuff like this. So you can either just ignore it, which is what I thought she was doing based off the last video I made about her, but like if you're not going to ignore it, you just need to quit, because you're never going to get people on your side in a way that is satisfying to you if getting hundreds of thousands of views on your videos with nobody talking about it was not already satisfying enough. Like, that's as good as it's going to get. When it comes to stuff like this, you've peaked, Colleen, so it's time to make a decision. See ya.